Okay, so before I begin with my video, I have a few things I want to talk about first. Number one, Tuesday, you may have noticed, did not upload his video on time. He should be punished. Comment below with suggested punishments. Number two, Saturday singing is just like crazy. Saturday is just crazy. Number three, we started a blog so that we could have longer comments because YouTube only lets us have 500 character comments, and it's, well, meaningful things can be said in 500 characters, as Twitter users may know. It's harder to do. So, if you want to leave a short comment, do so below. If you want to leave a longer comment, there's a link also below. Now everything's below, it's confusing. With those three things out of the way, I would like to read for you an excerpt from C.S. Lewis's Surprised by Joy. The excerpt I'll be reading is a conversation between C.S. Lewis's professor and a random person. These fiendish German atrocities, but are not fiends a figment of the imagination? Very well then, these brutal atrocities, but none of the brutes do anything of the kind. Well, what am I to call them? Is it not plain that we must call them human? My question today is, what does it mean to be humane? Or, to some extent, what does it mean to be human? But humane is an easier word. See, we seem to, as a society, have this idea that there are humane things to do and there are inhumane things to do. Like, torturing somebody is an inhumane thing to do. Feeding the poor is a humane thing to do. We have, like, humanitarian efforts. There's, like, a philosophy or whatever called humanitarianism or something like that, all based on this idea of humane. But the idea that I was awakened to when I read this for the first time was that humans do inhumane things. But how is it possible for a human to do something which is inhumane? Doesn't the fact that it is being done by a human mean that it is human or humane? These things we call inhumane, take waterboarding for example. People who are against torture say waterboarding is inhumane. Well, what other species does waterboarding? No, nobody. Where else do we see waterboarding in nature? Drowning. Yeah, that's, I guess. No, it's like only humans do waterboarding, which means that it has to be a human activity. The definition of humane says that it's characterized by tenderness, compassion, or sympathy for people or animals. But I don't know if that's correct. Humans can act in a compassionate or non-compassionate manner, and to say that humane is distinguished only when humans are acting compassionately seems like an arbitrary distinction. After all human activity is human activity, by hypothesis. Maybe the reason we say that humane behavior is compassionate human behavior is because we believe, deep down, maybe even unconsciously, that human behavior ought to be compassionate behavior. That humane means behaving in the manner that humans ought to behave. The simple fact of the matter is that humans behave in humane and inhumane ways. And to say that when we are behaving inhumanely or we are somehow less human seems to me to be a distinction which should not exist. So waterboarding your neighbor is every bit as human as is serving your neighbor a helping of cherries jubilee. But maybe it's not as humane if by humane we mean behaving as we ought. The interesting implication of humane meaning behaving as one ought is that there is a standard for behavior to which we ought to adhere. This video was a little bit short and ill thought out, but that's partly the way I wanted it. And also I'm kind of working against the sun and the light is fading fast, as you may have noticed. So, I will see you in 1 week.